So hello everybody, I'm Richard, and just going to wait for a second. Hi. You are my people. You are my community this afternoon. For me, it's partly all about you. The tie, the jacket, the name, the occasion. We're in this together, make no mistake. So one of the things I was interested in was the pause, actually, that we just had, and the significance of the pause. That little gap, that little space that's perhaps awkward, possibly important. Little moment for reflection. Let's try it again. Just time to do something with your phone even. Just that little pause. You're with me, sister. But you can take notes. Of course you can take notes. I'm not here to set rules. I'm just here. So for me, you see, I'm being kind of me now, but I'm a bit louder, and I'm a little bit slower, and I know that I'm talking to you directly. I know that. So it's not quite me. And I see it all, really, as not acting. I've never done any acting training, and I'm interested in theatre. For me, it's the closest I've come is what Deleuze calls becoming. So I'm already becoming now. I have become a bit, and I might become a bit more. And part of this story began in 1989 when I became, and I didn't just become Bailey Savage. It was a long process of thinking about who was Bailey Savage. What was it about? What would happen to Bailey Savage? You know, it's all very well for me to talk to you now with a slightly raised voice about Bailey Savage, but you meet this guy in the street. I am for real. I'm Bailey Savage. And I'm here to speak to you in a very loud voice about the revolution we're currently in 1989. Ha! And for all you know, I am real. I am real. Ha ha! Slightly demonic voice, but very real. So real that I was asked for advice on career development by people. As I gave out my business card. Really. So real that I became uncomfortable with that reality of being so real. And I made myself more ridiculous because I was uncomfortable. Now, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that now. I'd let people go along further. I'd make it more uncomfortable. I would. But what he was really about was, for me, satirizing business. And to have to be honest with you now, you know, it's easy to make this funny because it was kind of funny in a very uncomfortable way, except that I quite liked having a female chauffeur with a miniskirt, with a big car, who drove me around, opened doors for me, my suitcase saying BS on it, but I didn't make that connection at the time, but I thought it was British Steel. My suitcase with BS. I quite liked it. I started to think, you know, it's nice having doors open for you. I can get into this. I can understand why people in business get like they do. I got it because I started to feel it. like they did. I got it. It was uncomfortable to think that I could like this. I liked it a bit. And when the car went back to the showroom and the chauffeur disappeared, I kind of missed it. I missed it. But I was satirising. I was definitely wanting to get under the surface of what I thought was wrong with industry. And I mean, some of that is still definitely the case. There's no question I was right. But I was also not completely right, because it's not as simple as that. It says visionaire. So the strange thing was, that was then, and that would be about then, so that would be about, about 8 years later. Okay, you can already tell that I'm okay with this thing of confronting you in this way. Not really confronting you, maybe, shaking things up, being straight on. I'm okay with this, standing in front of you like this. I quite like it. I think it has its moments of usefulness. And it does something to me which I don't think does me any harm. But the other side of me is quite caring. You see, I'm quite kind of, you can see that as well. I want you to have a good time here this afternoon. In a way, I'm reaching out to you. In a way. Because I care about the people. And I am kind of a really excellent workshop facilitator. I know this. I know this for a fact because I just know that is something I'm really good at. I just know it. And why do I like facilitating? Because I like to kind of get things going. Without being not like this. When I'm facilitating, you hardly know I'm there. So out of that side of me, this side, came an opportunity. While I was doing this, one of you came up to me and said, same name as me, which was kind of weird, same birth sign, same name of ex-partner, said, Richard, I like what you do, the way you kind of build community. Would you come and do that in my company? And I thought, well, that's what people say in these kind of workshop situations, isn't it? They say these nice things and you never hear a thing from them. But why I wouldn't be telling you if this wasn't a different story. He phoned me up. He said, Richard, are you going to come in and see my company? I'm really proud of it. This is my project. And I think we could do with some of your community building skills in my company. So I went along. I was a bit nervous. But I thought about it. I thought, if I'm going to do this, I want to be paid a bit more than I'm normally paid. So I doubled my teaching day rate, and he said, that's quite a lot. That's okay. Well, maybe we negotiated a bit, reduced it a bit. And the thing that I said to him was, what I would really like, Richard, is to be here on an ongoing basis, not just to come in and do a workshop, which is what I'm sure he thought. He could come in and, do something with everybody, with my team, my staff team, which is getting bigger all the time, getting bigger, exponentially bigger. It was getting bigger when we stood there almost. So I said, no, what I'd like is to come in 1 day a week. And he said, well, Richard, that's okay. I think I can get that by the board. But let's see if you've got enough to do in 2 months' time. Okay, this is 19... God, what is it? 95. This is 1995. By the year 2000, 5 years later, I'm still there, working 3 days a week, and they want me to go full-time, and I'm refusing because I want to keep my art practice going. So it worked. Something worked. I'm a visionaire. I was the artist in residence, and people would come into the company and say, well, so do you make paintings then? And it didn't really, it wasn't clear what I was doing. So I invented the name of Visionaire, put it on my business card. There were I did a brainstorm, I had all creative director of creativity, all these things. Visionaire I went for because it was like kind of cross between a commissionaire and a visionary. I thought, it's kind of terrible. And then when I got it on my business card, Visionaire, it worked. People said, oh yeah, you're that guy that does that stuff, aren't you? Yeah, you're that guy. And then other companies wanted to work with me as well. Suddenly I'm a visionaire with very little time left for was this my art practice now? Of course it was, kind of. What did I do? I did lots of different things, really. I brought a lot of other creative people in. I made a film called Not the Corporate Video, which, interestingly enough, became the corporate video. Yeah, it really did. They had it playing in reception because they liked it so much. It was about the kind of stuff I did. Sometimes I would perform, but they knew me. We staged happenings. So there was a friend of mine called Anthony Roberts, who's director of the Colchester Arts Centre. He decided he wanted to be apology man. He came in and interrupted meetings and apologised, left his card, apologies for all occasions. Then he said, I've got another idea for you, Richard. I'm going to be wino man. Which was really a bit edgy now I think about it, because people have alcohol issues everywhere, don't they? Anyway, he would be slumped across reception at the beginning of the working day. I would send out an email saying, if you see anyone slumped across reception, but they know when an email comes from me, they're not quite sure what it means. So an email went out, and even the person who was working most closely with me forgot about my email and said, Richard, there's a guy slumped down. I said, look, you know who it is. It was Anthony, as a wino for the day, and he interrupted the board of directors meeting, was thrown out by one of the directors, wandered around. We worked out a story for him that was based on my friend Richard, who was then the chairman, which was that he used to work for the company and Richard sacked him because he had an alcohol problem. So Anthony went around saying, if I can do it, Anthony's drunk voice, I have to go up to somebody.
I've had a little drink, but I'm perfectly all right. You know what? That bastard Hicks, he sacked me just because I had a little drink. Can you believe it? That bastard.
So he did that as well. So that was the kind of more extreme things, I guess. I did a lot of things that were about community, building community in unusual ways. The company was known to be innovative, to have a very strong identity. It had to be justified on a business level. The business case was quite strong for my work. It really was. It really was quite strong. I was never received any public funding over that period at all. It was all paid. I was paid by the company. It was very, very fascinating. There's more. But I'm not just going to talk about that. Except to say that one of the things that really struck me was about names. This is one. I guess I found these little gaps that I think are in every organisation where no one really bothers. I mean, take this room. Has anyone acknowledged that within this room now, that we are now in, lives have been changed in here and will be changed? This is Birkbeck. You may know people who have been to Birkbeck and their lives have been changed as a result because they've started to do formal education for the first time as mature students or whatever. This is a significant building. It's a bit warm at the moment. It's laid out in a very nice casual way. But can you feel the sense of lives being changed in here? Let's have one of those pauses. I can feel it. So that's one of those gaps. So who names this door? Okay, what's the name of this room? We know what it is. Is it 521? What's 5? 541. 541. What a wasted opportunity. You could give this room a name, which would resonate in people's narrative story of their own lives. They're not going to remember 541, but if you called it, I don't know, anything almost, with just a name, like Esmeralda, for example. Do you remember when we were in Esmeralda and we had that great experience? So I got into naming rooms. And I also, one of Richard's schemes was that I kind of saw through the building of a whole new complex. And that was very interesting to see a new building on site. As the company got bigger and bigger, we had a new complex built. And there was a little hut built at the entrance for a kind of security guard to go in, and there was never a security guard. So Richard said, why don't you get a mannequin or something and stick a security guard in there? Not really into mannequins, but I because it was him, you know, he's by then we were kind of friends, really. So I liked to collaborate with him. I got a mannequin, dressed him up in a security suit, and he just stood there in the... So you drive in as a mannequin, not really a security guard. And it was, you know, but then I gave him a name. I called him Olaf Gundersen. He had an email account. And he would occasionally send out emails. He would talk about his favourite football team, he's Norwegian, was in Norway, and his favourite rock star. And there was a sort of little mythology was building around him. And then some of the younger staff members made a film about him. They stole and made a film about him, which they were thrilled with. And then we showed it at one of our company meetings, which I became the facilitator for company meetings, which became a bit entertaining. But then we had to name the biggest new building on site. This massive 3-story building or 4-story building didn't have a name. So there wasn't an obvious name for it. So I had a chat to the technical team, and we did a kind of fake kind of email lottery sent out by the technical director saying that all the names of everybody in the company had been put into a hat, and Olaf's name had won. So the building was going to be called the Gundersen Building, and to this day it's still called the Gundersen Building. One more thing about naming is that the gardener of the company was called Morris, and he used to be the barber of the barber shop where the company began in the town. And there was another building that needed a name, and I decided to call it the Morris Building after him because of his story in relation to the company. And taxi drivers would say, they'd tell the story, which I completely invented, really. I hadn't quite invented it, but they said, this building's named after Morris, the barber, because the company began there. I didn't invent it, it was true. But then, you know, it created this ripple. So I'm big on names. Oh, missed opportunity for Olaf, though. There he is. Okay. Timing's good, everybody. We're going well. Thank you for that. Talked about the gap. Talked about that. So we're just bang on. We're absolutely bang on. How did you do it? How did you do that to me? You're good. You're very, very good. You're better than you know you are. So I'm going to talk about China now. So I wanted to talk about it because it's kind of relevant to some things that have already come up. So this project, which I did not invent, is called Square Mile. And it's still going on today. It was set up by Visiting Arts, and basically different artists are given a square mile of a different city to live and work in. You can find it online, Visiting Arts Square Mile. And I was very interested in this. What does it mean to be given a square mile? I got Shanghai. I asked for Shanghai, I got Shanghai. I got a square mile of Shanghai for 2 months to live and work in. What could that mean? What could that mean? I didn't speak a word of Chinese. Now I'm learning. I didn't know any then. So in a way, when you don't speak the language, what do you perceive? What do you get? What do you find? A lot of bicycles. So I got a bike, borrowed a bike, used to cycle a lot. Found what was in the square mile, many, many things, of course. things to share with you, probably, well, the cleaners. So I have a cleaning thing too. That came up. I did, a while ago, I did something in Warwick University during a residency where I set up an event just for the cleaners of this corridor, which was ballroom dancers from the student body put on a ballroom dancing session just for the cleaners. And no one else was allowed to see it, only the cleaners, in this corridor that they kept impeccably clean. And that was the beginning, I guess, of my relationship to cleaners and cleaning. Now I've been on a 10-year cleaning project where I clean things all over the world, dressed, as I do. Because I think cleanings are invisible. I've never been stopped doing it. And I've got films of me cleaning in 4 continents now. No one's ever stopped me from cleaning, never once. So I was interested in the cleaners of the station in Shanghai. I went to the men's bathroom, and I said, I think I might have had a translator by then, and I said, could you say that I like this toilet? I think it's really a beautiful toilet. It had this sort of fig tree in the middle of it, or something in the middle of it, and glass, shattered glass. It was just stunning. And she said, oh no, I know what it was. It wasn't that. I said, oh, can I take your picture? And I think I didn't speak it. I just held up the cameras before I had the translator. Had my fancy Canon camera. I said, can I take your picture with that? And she took my camera. Now, I didn't know who this woman was. She took my camera and asked me to stand here and took my picture with her, with one of her regular customers. Well, I was a bit nervous, my camera being taken. But it was kind of jokey. It was a jokey thing. So I went back with my translator, began a dialogue with her, and this led on to me being invited to teach the whole station cleaners English, because they were getting ready for the expo. And then that led to me kind of mythologizing the toilet a bit. And I did an interview for an English language newspaper about that toilet and why I thought it was special. That article appeared in English with a photograph of the toilet. I took it to the cleaners and showed them this picture on payday, and they were really thrilled to see their toilet in the newspaper. So I guess it sort of changed some of that. Well, my relationship, it did something. It did something. I think I'd like to change the volume of my voice a bit. Tell you one more thing about China. So something else I felt aware of was that people, it's a very crowded city, Shanghai, but nobody ever bumped into me. And I couldn't understand why nobody bumped into me. Or except I kind of, through observation, I thought that the people moved differently. They moved more fluidly. And I've done Tai Chi for years. I thought, well, maybe it's something kind of genetic, maybe it's something learned. People, they're more aware because they're so crowded. That's my son calling. But it was time up. And so... Oh yeah. So I thought that there was a different sense of body awareness. That was my perception, a different sense of body awareness. So I did a kind of performance experiment. There was a big subway station in my square mile, and I stood in the middle of a very busy corridor where line 1, people change from line 1 to line 2. It's very crowded. I stood there for half an hour completely still, for half an hour, to see if anybody would bump into me, knowing that if I'd done that in my local tube station, they definitely would have done. And nobody did for half an hour. Just stood very still, looking into the distance. So I proved my theory, if you like, my research had results. How am I for time? Because I've lost track there. I've got one more.
Yeah, do one more.
One more thing is in Bristol, a project with the Norwest Media Centre, who've been working with Suzanne Lacey. And the Norwest Media Centre, I'm a big fan of theirs. They've done a lot of work on data, and I was part of a project called Who's Data. And one of my proposals to them was based on the experience of, it's online, you can find it on the Redstone website if you track me down. It was simply, based on some of my experiences in Shanghai, to be in the local shops and just seeing what people buy. What do people actually buy? So I stand there with an I talk to the guy, do you mind if I just, oh no, I don't want to go. I'd just stand there and write what people bought, categories of what they bought. And when I presented this as an idea, there was quite a lot of interest in it. And it went a bit like this. Crisps, crisps, crisps. There's a short pause after each purchase. So it'd be crisps, crisps, crisps. Booze, booze, tobacco. Crisps, sweets. White bread, milk, tobacco. Crisps, crisps, sweets. And so on. So it's a bit like a kind of a poem, really. But also there was data there. And it was sort of really shocking data for people from the council who were there when I presented this. So this sort of very casual, kind of strange bit of research that turned into a kind of sound poem actually had a lot of ripples going out. And it's online as a kind of a web page if you have a look on the Redstone website. I think I'll stop there. Thank you.